seen in the past few years is that the model completely shifted from these guys, you know, like the UPS, the FedEx, all the guys that have assets, all the guys that have like massive fleet of drivers, massive fleet of cars, to a model that is completely different, right? And I mean, considering how young you are, like you probably have used a lot of these services, you know, whether it's like services or parcel delivery that is based on demand, you know, that is based on, you know, I want like immediate gratifications in 30 minutes, all that type of stuff. So there is a whole hordes of companies that started in the Silicon Valley, but also in Europe and here, that came into more the outsourced model, okay? If you look slightly deeper into what it means by in-house versus outsourced, you realize that, so when we talk about in-house model, we talk about ownership of assets. You own the trucks, you own the cars, you own the bike. Two, we're talking about milk run basis. Milk run means that you go to a single point you go to one warehouse, to one place, okay, and then you pick multiple tasks, whether it's packages, whether it's people, carpooling, think about packages and people at the same time, right? It's a milk run basis. And then three is like end-to-end control of operations. It's your own staff, it's your own assets, you have full control. On the other hand, you have the completely outsourced model that goes with no ownership of assets. Think about the Uber off, right? Think about Uber, think about Karim, right? So no ownership of assets, point-to-point delivery network, and rely on some third party to be able to do the job, okay? And I would say the fourth one is like immediate gratification, right? You want a car now, okay? Or you want your grocery now. All this stuff is mostly based on app. And obviously, like this trend has happened because there is lots of challenges associated with having a big fleet. You remember, like these guys on the left side of the chart. And I mean, this is why all this on-demand logistics have been appearing, is because one, you have a legacy IT system, right? A lot of this logistics company have been built on a different model, right? Have been built on, you know, like 40, 50, some of them like 100 years ago, 120 years ago, on a system that is completely different. So that's one. Two, they focus on return on assets. Most of these companies are really big, okay, talking about IPO and that kind of stuff, and they will be trading return on assets versus customer satisfaction. And that's critical to understand, as you'll understand later on. And then three is based again on a central warehouse system. Okay, with basically a fleet of drivers going to one place, picking 100,000, 10,000 packages, and then doing the deliveries. But the problem is that this model, again, has reached its limits, okay? And that's why you can see, you know, there was like this flourishing, honestly, like hundreds of e-commerce companies, hundreds of logistics companies that have been built in the past, I would say 20 years, especially in the US, to try to go completely on the opposite. But now, and you know, like I remember like the statistics, there was in 2014, all the logistics deals that has been financed and funded by Silicon Valley investors, 70% add on the title, the Uber off. Okay, so it just gives you an idea on how big and how it became obvious to go to the completely on-demand model. But the problem is that now we've seen, I mean, in the past 20 years now, we know how this model behaves. Okay, and we've seen the pitfalls of this model. Okay, so the first one is legal, right? And you know, I mean, if you follow a little bit about what's going on in the last mile industry, one is legal, right? It doesn't matter whether you don't consider that this driver performing that task for you is not an employee. The judge decides otherwise. Okay, and the key here is that in the US, the way they think about it is that if that driver makes a fair amount of money, and fair amount is being defined at the state level, if they make a fair amount of money through your device, they are being considered whether you want it or not as an employee. And therefore you have liabilities associated with it. So it was one of the key advantage of the outsourced model that is now gone. The second one is definitely low stickiness, right? You guys are aware of, you know, the gig economy. And like now you can see a lot of drivers again in the US, but here that have multiple apps and that are literally deciding, arbitraging, almost like traders, to see how they're gonna spend their time, on what platform, what task they're gonna take, which basically allows to have, triggers high attrition between drivers and requires triggers very low loyalty between at the driver level. And at the end of the day, all two of these issues triggers the low consistency of customer experience. Okay, like you don't know, and I mean, you've seen what's happening with Uber in India and so on. There is tons of problem with you being able to vet the people that are going to do the job. Okay, and you can do, and I think it's just a problem that's going to be never ending. You know, when you're growing that fast, it's very difficult for companies to be able to vet their supply and to have the same type of consistency of service across. So we took the example of HomeJoy and how they actually went down because of the lack of quality assurance and platform leakage. Okay, so this is how it is, right? And then because a lot of these companies have been aware of these problems and they're trying to find solutions, right? So if you look at Ship, which is one of the largest on-demand company in the US, they really tried to tackle 1, 2, and 3, right, in the problems that I just mentioned. So one, they moved all the couriers. They didn't wait for the judge to tell them state by state on how to behave with their drivers. They moved most of it, or all of their couriers, all of their drivers, into an in-house model, right? Basically becoming, you know, de facto employees, right? And then they put a lot of attention with regards to vetting the workforce, with regards to training, and again, retention. So this is, you know, like again, like I think these companies have done a great job to be able to tackle these issues. It's never ending, but I think that there is quite a lot of things that has been done. But ultimately, and you know, and this is what I want to address. All these models fail to be lean, and this is like so like bear with me. On the macroeconomic level, a model that maximizes efficiency will win no matter what. And just think about a scenario, okay? You're in Tower 1, okay, wherever it is, and you want to send a package to your friend in Tower B, say 10 kilometers away, okay? And then 1 minute later, another person in Tower A wants to send another package to Tower B. The on-demand economy will treat that as two separate requests, right? And you know that, right? So 100 people leaving a concert, you get like 100 Uber cars that come. Okay, so they all come to the same point, and then obviously it goes to all the delivery points on all the destination, right? While the consolidation model, and where, you know, like if you look at the traditional logistics, will consider this as batching orders and being able to do either carpooling for people or regular deliveries, which means three things, okay? Which means that one, the on-demand economy thinks about local optimum. Okay, for you as a consumer, the only thing that matters is that how fast you're gonna get the car. But at the macro level, this is horrible. You can have like 10 cars that are being idle, that are just running around to make sure that you have the better customer experience. Okay, so that's one. Two, it's extremely inefficient. Okay, if you look at resources, and don't think only about resources as natural resources, even though, I mean, it's gonna become one of the challenges in the next, I mean, for sure for the next generation, is that it's not only resources, it's about time, it's about people, all right? It's time. It's extremely suboptimal, you know, like for example, if you take the example that I just took, you know, these two tasks could have been completed by one driver waiting for 1 minute to get the other packages and being able to perform the same level of task with like 50% of the resources, both time and gas. And then three, at the end of the day, what we thought was scalable, okay, because we always thought that the on-demand economy was completely scalable. What we thought was scalable becomes completely unscalable. Like you cannot have 10 drivers going to one tower, let alone 100 drivers going to one warehouse, each of them picking one package. It just does not make sense at scale. So, I mean, and that's my last point. I think at the end of the day, we need to take the best of both worlds, right? And the companies that are, you know, that are working, whether they're coming from the in-house perspective or from the outsource, will need, and are already moving to somewhere in the middle, right? We talked about Ship, for example. We talked about some other companies. But I believe that even so, like the next model, and this is a little bit what we were trying to work on, and believe me, this is just extremely complicated, is try to see whether we can find something around here, right? Something that batches what you and what our generation wants with regards to on-demand economy and predictability, and still matching what makes the in-house model great, which is, you know, like low cost per delivery and being able to have like a scalable operations for businesses. So that's it. Thank you, and have a good day.